G'day, so this is another episode about venomous husbandry. This one's to do with hides. Hides are really important in enclosures. If you don't have hides in the enclosures, the animals start to stress out. We use a whole heap of different sorts of hides for different reasons. I'm going to go through the basics of why we use what hide in what enclosure and all the rest of it. The fundamental reason to use a hide is to make sure the animal feels secure. Now, secondary to that, if we want to make sure that we can get the snake out relatively easy whenever we need to. So that could be for a medical reason or what have you. So you've got to be able to make sure you can get your animal out of that hide. And likewise, you want to make it relatively simple, because if it's not relatively simple, it means that you're going to struggle to get that animal out. If you're struggling to get that animal out, you stress the animal out, you stress yourself out, and therefore you end up causing some issues. Now, there's a couple of different hides that we mainly use. We usually use plastic. There's a couple of reasons why we use plastic. A, it's easy to clean. It doesn't really make too much of a difference to the animal either way, whether it's a natural product or a piece of plastic. At the end of the day, a piece of plastic is able to be disinfected or sterilised depending on what you're using. You can get into all the nooks and crannies. They don't tend to break down. They don't tend to warp or twist or anything like that, as long as you get a half decent sort of plastic. Timber looks great. Rocks look great. Rocks can fall on animals and crush animals. Timber can harbour cracks that parasites and things like that to get into. Yeah, you can argue that you keep your cages clean and that you keep your collection clean, you'll never get parasites. I don't know anyone who's kept reptiles for any significant length of time that hasn't had to deal with parasites. So it is what it is. Every keeper that I know has had mite at some point in time. A lot of people are scared to admit it. If you keep reptiles, there is a chance that you can come into contact with mite. It could be something as simple as you go into a person's house or a reptile show or something like that, and then you coming home, not cleaning, not thinking, next thing you know you've brought mite home. So, alright, so the hides themselves. Plastic, usually plastic of some description. This here is a piece of plastic that I cut down. We're big on recycling stuff, so we can recycle it, reuse it, we'll reuse it. Notice how we've got the hide here at the front and the holes at the bottom. The whole idea of not having a hole, say, there or in the top of the hide, is so that if you were to do that, you would have to cut a hole. If you're trying to cut a hole and the big food item, or they've folded themselves on their body a couple of times, the plastic's going to lift up and you're not going to jam your snake. In a hole, there's a chance that you can have the snake to jam. So that's one type. Water bowl. These are fantastic as hides as well. So you can see how that's hollow underneath. It doesn't quite touch the bottom, alright, the centre. Alright, so what that allows the snake to do is it can go underneath, it can jam itself in, and it actually feels really tight and comfortable for the snake. Alright, again, easy to clean out. In warm weather, if you don't have an air conditioner set up or climate control in your room, water bowls tend to remain cooler, and if they're remaining cooler, then as a result what you end up having is a cool hide for the enclosure. Downside of these, because they are fairly light, the snakes tip them over the water all through your bloody enclosure. A store-bought type hide. They look nice. The problem is they're a bastard to clean because they've got all these little holes and nicks and crannies and stuff like that. The reality is something like that, which is a piece of plastic. This is a sterile dish from a hospital, a instrument dish. Again, thing cut out at the side of it. This is a lot easier to clean than that. I'll spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes cleaning 10 or 15 of these. Those will take me 5 minutes each. So while that's nicer to look at, that's a hell of a lot more functional. Again, another thing looks good. This is like a two-part type hide. Where I find these are actually really good is for some species that require a really humid hide. So what you can do is you can actually fill this right up to the brim with sphagnum moss, and then pour some water in there. Make sure it's all nice and moist, but not too wet. Put the lid on, and the rate of desiccation in that sphagnum moss is going to be greatly slow. Now you can do exactly the same thing with something like that. Now the beauty of this particular setup here is this is a store-bought plastic container. Clear underneath, this one's filled with sphagnum because I use this as a lay box as well. Alright, and I've drilled a hole in the top. Now the hole I've drilled in the top is much larger than the snake that would go into this hide. Okay? That goes into the enclosure as the hide. I can then use my shield, which is here, like so. That goes over the top inside the enclosure. If the snake's inside there, I can lift that out with relative safety and put that into my holding container. So that's one of my holding bins. Whole thing can go in there, lid can go on, and you can then turn around and use that as your safe transfer. Because that's now gone to the bin, you haven't handled the snake or anything like that, but if you needed to, you can always pull the lid off the bottom of it, so you can always get to your snake. Relatively simple. So it's a form of shift box or trap box. Once you put it back into the enclosure, you can then use your hook, take the lid off, put the lid on with the hook, on and on. Alright, so you're not presenting yourself any risk as a keeper. Alright, now, they come in different sizes. You can go into your local supermarket, go into the plastic aisle, try and find a solid plastic one and then a clear plastic one in different sizes, and you can make things up. So here's another one. So you can see here, this is the top. I've got a hook point there. Did you see the tiger snake come and strike on my hand then? The whole idea of that is so again, I can lift this up and the snake can't get to me. Alright, now if I want to inspect and make sure that that snake's okay, alright, I can actually look underneath and I can make sure that that snake's alright. Alright, perfectly safe. The snake can't hurt me, it can't bite me through there or anything like that. But I can basically make sure that it's a nice, easy, safe extrication for me. So if I wanted to lift that off, I could lift that off the hook. Now I'm not going to do that. There's no need to get the snake out. Alright, so that's that. So if you've got any questions or anything like that, sing out, leave a comment. I think that's what people say. I'm fairly unused to this YouTube stuff. Leave a comment below if you're enjoying the videos. If there's something particular you want me to discuss, whether it be putting snakes into tubes or whatever, leave a comment and we'll see what we come up with. Alright, thanks guys. Cheers.